History is a vast ocean. Many great figures sail across its surface, their stories told and retold. Their names become landmarks, guiding our understanding of the past. Yet beneath the waves lie countless other stories, submerged and often forgotten. Among these hidden tales is that of Pope Agatho. He was a leader of the Catholic Church in a critical time. He faced enormous challenges. He made decisions that shaped the future of Christian belief, but today, few people outside of scholarly circles even know his name. He is like a ghost in the long corridors of papal history, a faint whisper rather than a resounding voice. Why does a figure of such potential importance fade into obscurity? Was his reign too short? Were the events of his time too complex, overshadowed by other, more dramatic narratives? Or is it simply the nature of history to be selective, to spotlight some while leaving others in the shadows awaiting rediscovery? Pope Agatho's story is a fascinating puzzle. It invites us to look closer. We must try to understand the man, his world, and the reasons for his quiet place in our collective memory. His pontificate, though brief, was a moment of significant decision and lasting impact for the Church. This essay will try to bring Pope Agatho out of the shadows. We will explore his life. We will examine the turbulent era in which he became Pope. We will look at the difficult problems he had to solve. His most significant challenge was a deep theological disagreement that threatened to tear the Church apart. This was the debate over monothelitism, a complex idea about the will of Jesus Christ. Agatho took a firm stand. He guided the Church towards a resolution that would define its teaching for centuries to come. Understanding Pope Agatho is more than just a historical exercise. It is about recognizing that even the lesser-known figures can have profound significance. Their stories teach us about the complexities of leadership. They show the constant interplay of faith, politics, and human endeavor. By uncovering his story, we not only learn about a forgotten pope, we also gain a richer appreciation for the tapestry of church history. We see how each thread, no matter how hidden, contributes to the overall design. We begin to see why every story, including Agatho's, matters. Pope Agatho's early life is shrouded in considerable mystery, a common fate for many figures from the early medieval period. What we know is pieced together from limited sources. He is believed to have been born in Sicily, likely around the year 577 AD. This would make him quite old when he eventually became pope. Sicily, at this time, was part of the Byzantine Empire. It was a place of Greek language and culture, even though it was in the West. This background would prove to be very important during his papacy. His familiarity with Greek traditions helped him communicate with the Eastern Church. It is thought that Agatho may have been a monk before his election to the papacy. Some traditions suggest he belonged to a Benedictine monastery in Palermo, dedicated to St. Hermes. If true, this monastic life would have shaped him deeply. It would have instilled in him a life of prayer, study, and discipline. These were qualities highly valued in church leaders. However, concrete evidence for this monastic period is scarce. Much of his life before becoming pope remains in the realm of pious tradition rather than hard historical fact. What is certain is that he was well regarded for his piety and gentle nature. Agatho's journey to the papal throne was not one of ambition or political maneuvering, as far as we can tell. He was already an old man, perhaps nearly 100 years old, when he was elected pope in June 678 AD. His predecessor, Pope Donus, had a very short reign. The See of Peter needed a steady hand. Agatho was a treasurer of the Roman Church before his election. This role suggests he was trusted with important administrative and financial duties. It also implies he was well acquainted with the practical challenges facing the Church in Rome. His election likely came as a surprise to many, given his advanced age. However, his reputation for holiness, his Greek background, and his administrative experience made him a suitable candidate. The Church in Rome needed someone who could navigate the difficult theological debates with the East. They also needed someone to manage the temporal affairs of a city struggling with poverty and the threat of the Lombards. Agatho, despite his age, seemed to possess the wisdom and the diplomatic skills required for this daunting task. His long life had perhaps prepared him for this final, crucial role. Pope Agatho stepped into the papacy at a moment of profound theological crisis. The Christian world was deeply divided by the doctrine of monothelitism. This teaching, which had emerged in the early 7th century, proposed that Jesus Christ had two natures, human and divine, but only one will, the divine will. This idea was initially promoted by some Eastern emperors and patriarchs. They hoped it would reconcile those Christians called monophysites who believed Christ had only one nature with the official Chalcedonian teaching of two natures. It was an attempt at religious unity for political stability. However, monothelitism was seen by many in the West and by some in the East as a dangerous error. They argued that if Christ had two distinct natures, he must also have two distinct wills, a human will and a divine will. To deny Christ a human will seemed to diminish his true humanity. This was not just an abstract theological debate for scholars, it touched the very heart of how Christians understood their salvation. If Christ was not fully human, how could he redeem humanity? The Roman See, under Agatho's predecessors like Pope Martin I, had strongly opposed monothelitism, leading to persecution and exile for those who resisted imperial pressure. Agatho inherited this storm. The Byzantine Emperor Constantine IV, unlike his predecessors, was seeking a way to resolve the controversy. He wanted to restore religious unity within his empire. He hoped to achieve this through an ecumenical council. He therefore wrote to Pope Donus, Agatho's predecessor, inviting him to send delegates to Constantinople. By the time the imperial letter arrived in Rome, Pope Donus had died. The task of responding to the emperor and preparing the Western Church for this crucial council fell to the newly elected Pope Agatho. It was a monumental responsibility for the elderly pontiff. Agatho approached this challenge with great care and deliberation. He understood the importance of presenting a united Western front. He did not rush his response. Instead, he convened a series of synods throughout the West. He gathered bishops from Italy, Gaul, England, and Spain. These local councils discussed the issue of monothelitism. They affirmed the traditional Western teaching of two wills in Christ. Agatho wanted to ensure that the delegates he sent to Constantinople would speak with one voice. This voice would represent the consistent faith of the Roman Church and the broader Western tradition. The centerpiece of Pope Agatho's pontificate was undoubtedly his involvement in the Sixth Ecumenical Council, also known as the Third Council of Constantinople. This council met from November 680 to September 681. Its primary purpose was to address and resolve the Monothelite controversy. Emperor Constantine IV Pogonatus presided over the council. He was eager to find a solution that would bring peace to the church and stability to his empire. Agatho, though unable to attend in person due to his age and the long journey, played a crucial role through his legates and his influential letters. Agatho prepared meticulously for this council. He sent a large delegation from Rome. It included bishops, priests, and deacons. More importantly, he sent two significant letters. One was addressed to the emperor. The other, a longer doctrinal letter, was for the assembled patriarchs and bishops of the council. This doctrinal letter, often called Agatho's dogmatic letter, clearly and firmly articulated the Western understanding of Christology. It emphasized the belief in two distinct but harmoniously united wills and two operations in Christ, corresponding to his two natures, divine and human. Agatho's letter was not just a personal theological opinion. He presented it as the unbroken tradition of the Apostolic See of Rome. He claimed it was the faith handed down from St. Peter. He stressed that the Roman Church had, by the grace of God, never erred from the path of apostolic truth. This was a strong assertion of papal authority and Roman doctrinal consistency. When Agatho's letter was read at the council, it was met with widespread acclaim. The bishops reportedly exclaimed, "Peter has spoken through Agatho." This indicated its powerful impact and its alignment with their own understanding of Orthodox faith. The council ultimately condemned monothelitism as heretical. It affirmed the doctrine of two wills and two energies in Christ, in full agreement with Agatho's letter and the Western position. The council also posthumously condemned several figures who had promoted monothelitism, including Pope Honorius I. The condemnation of a previous pope was a complex issue, but it showed the council's commitment to doctrinal clarity above all. Agatho did not live to see the final sessions of the council or its formal decrees. He died in January 681 while the council was still in progress. However, his guidance had been decisive. While the Monothelite controversy and the preparations for the Sixth Ecumenical Council dominated Pope Agatho's short pontificate, he also had to deal with many other pressing issues closer to home. Rome in the late 7th century was a city facing numerous hardships. The grandeur of the ancient empire was long gone. The city was smaller, poorer, and constantly vulnerable. One of the persistent threats came from the Lombards. They were a Germanic people who controlled large parts of Italy. They frequently clashed with Byzantine territories, including the lands around Rome that were under papal influence. Agatho, as pope, was not just a spiritual leader. He was also a temporal protector of the Roman people. He had to negotiate with Lombard leaders. He had to ensure the city's defenses and secure food supplies. These were practical, everyday concerns that demanded his attention and resources. His experience as a treasurer of the church before becoming pope likely helped him in managing these affairs. He understood the financial strains on the church and the city. He worked to alleviate the suffering of the populace, which was also afflicted by outbreaks of plague during this period. Another area of Agatho's activity concerned the internal affairs of the church in the West. He maintained correspondence with bishops in various regions. For example, he was involved in restoring St. Wilfrid to his see of York in England. Wilfrid had been unjustly deposed and had appealed to Rome. Agatho, after examining the case, supported Wilfrid. This demonstrated the growing authority of the papacy in resolving disputes within churches far from Rome. It showed that even distant bishops looked to the Pope for justice and doctrinal guidance, reinforcing Rome's position as a central court of appeal. Furthermore, Agatho was known for his generosity and his care for the clergy and the poor of Rome. He is said to have been a man of gentle disposition and remarkable kindness, which earned him the title Thaumaturgus, or Wonder Worker, by some later Greek writers, though this title is not widely attested in Western sources. His pontificate, though brief, lasting only about 2.5 years, was marked by a dedicated effort to strengthen the church both doctrinally and administratively. He sought to provide stability and leadership in a world that was constantly changing and often chaotic. Despite Pope Agatho's significant role in the Sixth Ecumenical Council and his firm defense of Orthodox Christology, his name is not widely remembered today. Several factors likely contributed to his relative obscurity in the popular imagination. One of the primary reasons is the brevity of his pontificate. He reigned for less than 3 years, from June 678 to January 681. Popes with longer reigns often leave a more substantial mark, undertaking more extensive projects or becoming associated with a broader range of events. Agatho's main achievement was guiding the preparations for the council, a focused but singular major event. Another factor is that Agatho himself did not live to see the conclusion of the council he so carefully prepared for. He died while it was still in session. His successor, Pope Leo II, was the one who formally confirmed the council's decrees and communicated them throughout the West. Consequently, Leo II sometimes receives more credit in historical accounts for the council's implementation. The glory of the council's success was thus somewhat diffused, not solely attached to Agatho's name in the immediate aftermath, even though his doctrinal letter was pivotal. Furthermore, the 7th century itself is a period that can seem remote and complex to modern audiences. It lacks the dramatic narratives of the early persecutions or the grandeur of the High Middle Ages. The theological debates, like monothelitism, are intricate and can be difficult for non-specialists to grasp fully. Figures like Agatho, whose primary contribution was in resolving such a debate, might seem less accessible than popes known for founding orders, launching crusades, or engaging in major political struggles with emperors that are easier to dramatize. His work was deeply intellectual and theological. Finally, the nature of historical records and storytelling plays a role. Some popes had more charismatic personalities, or were subjects of more extensive contemporary biographies. If Agatho was indeed a quiet, elderly monk thrust into the papacy, his personal story might not have generated the kind of vivid accounts that capture lasting popular attention. His legacy is more about the doctrinal clarity he championed than about a dramatic personal narrative. Thus, he remains a figure highly respected by theologians and church historians, but less known to the wider public, a testament to the subtle ways history remembers and forgets. The question, was Pope Agatho Catholic? Might seem surprising for a pope. However, it is a valid question if we consider what Catholic means in its fullest sense, adherence to the universal orthodox faith of the Church. To answer this, we must look at Agatho's actions and teachings. We must compare them with the core tenets of the Catholic Church, especially regarding the nature of Christ, which was the central issue of his time. The Catholic Church teaches that Jesus Christ is one divine person with two distinct natures, one divine and one human, perfectly united without confusion, change, division or separation. This teaching, known as diotheletism or two wills and diophysitism or two natures, was formally defined at the Council of Chalcedon in 451 AD. The Monothelite doctrine, which Agatho confronted, challenged this by asserting only one will in Christ. Agatho, in his famous dogmatic letter to the Sixth Ecumenical Council, robustly defended the Chalcedonian definition. He explicitly taught the existence of two natural wills and two natural operations in Christ, divine and human, working in perfect harmony. His letter stated that the human will of Christ, though distinct, always submitted to his divine will. This was perfectly aligned with established Catholic orthodoxy. The Catholic Church also emphasizes the importance of tradition and the teaching authority of the Church, particularly the role of the See of Peter in preserving the faith. Agatho, in his letters, strongly appealed to the tradition of the Roman Church. He claimed it had remained unblemished by heresy, guarded by the promise of Christ to Peter. He presented his teaching not as his own innovation, but as the consistent faith of his predecessors and the universal Church. The very fact that the Sixth Ecumenical Council acclaimed his letter with the words, "Peter has spoken through Agatho," signifies that the wider Church recognized his teaching as authentically Catholic and apostolic. Therefore, based on his clear teachings, his defense of established conciliar definitions, and his understanding of Church authority, Pope Agatho was unequivocally Catholic. He stood firmly within the Orthodox tradition. He played a vital role in steering the Church away from the Monothelite heresy. His actions ensured that the Catholic understanding of Jesus Christ as fully divine and fully human with two wills was reaffirmed and clarified for future generations. His commitment to the integrity of the faith, even at an advanced age and during a short pontificate, marks him as a faithful steward of Catholic doctrine. Though Pope Agatho may not be a household name, his pontificate left a lasting, albeit quiet, impact on the Catholic Church. His most significant legacy is undoubtedly his contribution to the condemnation of monothelitism. By providing clear theological guidance to the Sixth Ecumenical Council, he helped solidify the Church's understanding of Christ's two wills. This was not merely an academic point. It had profound implications for worship, spirituality, and the very understanding of how humanity is saved through Christ. The clarity achieved at this council, thanks in large part to Agatho, has remained a cornerstone of Catholic, Orthodox, and many Protestant Christologies ever since. His firm assertion of the Roman See's doctrinal stability and authority also had long-term consequences. While the concept of papal primacy was ancient, Agatho's confident claim that the Church of Rome had never erred in faith resonated through subsequent centuries. His letters became important texts cited in later discussions about the role and authority of the Pope. Even though he was not seeking personal power, his defense of the Petrine tradition contributed to the developing framework of papal leadership within the Universal Church. He showed how the Pope could serve as a focal point for unity in matters of essential doctrine. Beyond the grand stage of ecumenical councils, Agatho's attention to the needs of local churches, such as his intervention in the case of Wilfrid of York, reinforced the papacy's role as a court of appeal and a source of justice. This helped to foster a sense of connection and common identity among the diverse churches of the West. It demonstrated that Rome was concerned not only with high theology, but also with the practical well-being and proper governance of individual dioceses. This pastoral aspect of his papacy, though less dramatic, was important for the Church's cohesion. Furthermore, Agatho is venerated as a saint in both the Catholic Church with his feast day on January 10th and the Eastern Orthodox Church with his feast day on February 20th. This shared veneration is a rare honor for popes of this period, especially given the growing estrangement between East and West. It speaks to the respect he earned from both traditions for his piety, his wisdom, and his crucial role in defending the common faith against heresy at the Third Council of Constantinople. His sainthood ensures that, at least in liturgical memory, his contribution is not entirely forgotten, serving as a quiet reminder of his faithful service. In the grand narrative of history, it is easy to focus only on the most prominent figures, the ones whose names echo loudly through the ages. Yet, the story of the Church, like any great history, is woven from countless threads. Pope Agatho's life and pontificate remind us of the immense value in unearthing the stories of those who have been largely forgotten. These lesser-known individuals often played crucial roles at critical junctures. Their contributions, though perhaps quiet or overshadowed, were essential in shaping the path that followed. Understanding them gives us a more complete and nuanced picture of the past. Learning about forgotten popes like Agatho helps us appreciate the continuity and the challenges of church leadership across different eras. His struggles with theological division, imperial politics, and the practical needs of Rome were not unique to his time. They reflect enduring themes in the history of the papacy. By studying how he navigated these complexities, even with limited resources and during a short reign, we gain insights into the resilience of the institution and the enduring importance of doctrinal clarity. We see that leadership is often about steady faithfulness in difficult circumstances, not just grand gestures. Moreover, remembering figures like Agatho counters the tendency to oversimplify history. The past was not just a procession of famous saints and notorious sinners. It was populated by a multitude of individuals, each with their own context, challenges, and responses. Agatho, the elderly Sicilian monk who became pope and guided the Church through a major theological storm, shows us that significant contributions can come from unexpected quarters. His story encourages a deeper curiosity about the many layers of history and the diverse personalities who shaped it. It teaches us that even a short period of service can have a long-lasting impact. In conclusion, Pope Agatho's legacy, though not widely celebrated, is a testament to faithful leadership and doctrinal integrity. He was indeed Catholic, a staunch defender of the Church's traditional understanding of Christ. He faced immense challenges with wisdom and determination. While the currents of time may have largely submerged his story, bringing it back to light enriches our understanding of Church history. It reminds us that every pontificate, every faithful leader, contributes to the ongoing journey of faith. The forgotten popes have much to teach us, if only we take the time to listen to their quiet echoes from the past.